Not much.
All those Coach of the Year awards, where do you put them all? Is there a place where you stash the hardware?
If there is, I don't know where it is. You know, I remember where my first one is, because I wasn't there to get it. So that kind of a special one for me. But yeah, it's something that you never get. You never get tired of having your peers think you and your coaching staff did a great job. It's as I told the players, people vote, and generally speaking, the best team, gets rewarded with some kind of Coach of the Year award or something, or whoever beats us. That's kind of how it's gone. And I would think the same thing happens for players. The best player generally should be the best player on the best team is usually the person who gets that award. So it comes with the territory if you're good enough.
Geno, you've always talked about there's some years where you just have to roll the balls out there and you know that they're going to take care of business, and there are other years where it's a lot harder. This year it seemed like it was pretty darn hard and you had to change some things. So how much harder was the coaching job this year, and if you talk about what you changed?
I would say the last 3 years. Well, the last 4 years. Starting with the bubble, the COVID year. I would say, coinciding with Paige, Leah, and Nika being here. These last 4 years have been incredibly difficult. Rewarding as well in a certain sense, but incredibly difficult. The toll that it takes on your players and your coaching staff, everyone. You can't measure it, because it's just piling on. It's just one thing after another, and all those years you have to go through some changes and you have to reinvent yourself based on who you don't have anymore. This year, with so many players not playing, and everyone that you look at that you think be the stopgap is young players who have never played before, and teaching is hard. It's you've got people that learn like that, and then you've got ones that take quite some time, and trying to marry the two together. Yeah, this was probably the most difficult of those four, for sure. The cumulative effect maybe had something to do with it, but the circumstances this year were certainly much different than they have been the last 4 years, or any other year that I've been here, for that matter.
Kind of on that, to see Paige get back to the Player of the Year spot, just what is that like for you to sort of see her come off the injury and still kind of be where she was before?
When I was watching her play in November, I thought this isn't the same Paige, obviously, that used to play. So from November till the present, I think she's had an opportunity to grow back into her game, have the players learn how to play alongside her and not watch her. And with very few exceptions, makes big shots, makes big plays. She's probably the first power forward to be ever nominated for the best shooting guard in the country. It goes to show you how, she's willing to do anything she has to do to help us win, play any position, fill any role. So just on that aspect alone, forget all the points and rebounds, just on that willingness to do that and not complain about it and embrace it. makes her deserving of Player of the Year.
She seems legitimately a little disappointed about not getting Defensive Player of the Year. Can you talk about the?
Yeah, I told her
defensive
let's not get carried away. I mean, it's, yeah. But at the same time, she's full of it and she's delusional, but there's always a couple nuggets of truth in what she says, because the reality of the situation is she did have a great year defensively, yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised, had she gotten it, but.
Have you seen her regain a little bit of her Paige swagger? Like you said, she's full of it. Like when she got here, she was so joyful and just everything came so easy, and she really had to work to get that back. Have you seen her get that back a little?
Yeah, for sure. When you have it taken away from you, there's always a fear, I'm sure, and there's doubts will I ever get back to who I was, So she's worked really, really hard to make sure that she was able to do what we need her to do and what she wanted to do. And it's ongoing. It's still it's an everyday thing, for her. There's no days when she's not doing something to, continue the rehab process. That's not going away. And then throw all the minutes on top of that, to ask her, it's bad enough on the other guys, but for her coming off not playing for a whole year and then throwing all those minutes on top of it, I didn't know what effect that would have by the end of the year, but she's had some of her best games towards the end, So let's just hope she's got a bunch left in her.
She's also been honored recently for her academic success. And with academics, basketball, a year's worth of rehab, and everything she's got in the NIL world. I mean, It's a busy kid. What have you seen? What have you learned about her over these years that enables her to manage and handle all that successfully?
Well, you can tell that she's busy because she's not hanging around my office waiting, like a little puppy waiting outside to go out for a walk or something, or feed him some crackers or something. I don't know. And like she was as a freshman, she had nowhere to go, she had nothing to do, and so she thought this would be really cool. I'd just go up and hang out in Coach's office, and so now I never see her, which is a great sign, because she is busy and she does have a lot on her plate. But yet, if you come in here sometimes and it's dark out and you hear a ball bouncing, pretty good chance if you look in there, it's probably her, She keeps the first things first, I think she was genuinely surprised and almost shocked that she was the Scholar Athlete of the Year. And she said, who was this for? I said, this is for basketball. I said, all the basketball coaches nominate somebody and then they pick whoever it is that picks, whoever that committee is that picks. So then they have another one, for the Big East Scholar Athlete that encompasses all sports. She got all. I said, but I wouldn't get your hopes too high on that one. But you never know. You never know how things go. But really proud of her for everything. It's a lot on her plate, and she handles it great.
She said if she didn't have a basketball career to pursue, she'd likely be in the FBI or become a lawyer because she likes to argue. Does that line up with the personality you've come to know?
Yeah. She argues a lot with everybody. I mean, there isn't anybody that she doesn't think she's right. Her opinion is the only one that matters, and anything, if you were to bring up something, and that's why it's so much fun to have her around, because somebody says, shouldn't you when you want to spend time with your grandkids, I said, I don't have to spend time with my grandkids. I got Paige. You know, that's the same thing as a 13-year-old, you know? Some words will come out of her mouth, you know, like, hey, I did this yesterday. And then when you remind her, hey, why'd you do that? I didn't do that. So, man, this is like being at my grandkids' house. So the things that she says, the things that she does, she's very convincing, and she's, yeah. The FBI part, yeah, she's nosy. I will give you that. She wants to know everything about everybody. She's in everybody's business, all around the country too. Like, you can ask her a question about anything, anywhere around the country, basketball-wise, she's got the answer.
Do you know your team has developed such a defensive mindset this year? When you're thinking about the postseason, how much does foul trouble, somebody not, one person not playing well, what worries you about?
A lot of times, in the postseason, you have to change up what you're doing for whatever reason, and we only have one way to play. It's not like all of a sudden, you know, the game's too slow. Let's pick up full court and press them. You know, or let's go sit in the zone, you know, with our 5'10" power forward, you know, with one, you know, with Aaliyah. So there's certain things that we just can't do. So the things that we are good at, that we can do, we have to make sure we control that to the best of our ability. You know, you see that, you know, when we're shooting the ball well and we're spreading the ball around, you know, we're a hard team to play against. But when those shots aren't dropping like they have been during that 13-game winning streak, yeah, it makes it tough. So what do I worry about? You know, you worry about one night where you just, and then what are we going to do? Offensive rebound you to death? You know, I mean, so yeah, we've got margin like that. But it's not like it's a 5-game series, you know? You only got to be really, really good one night. So yeah, one bad night knocks you out, but one good night, you keep winning. But the wrong ref, the wrong time, the wrong foul call at the wrong time. Yeah, there's a million things.
You just talked a lot about your freshmen being fearless. I mean, do you believe that they're ready for the big moment of the postseason?
I mean, how does anybody know until you see it? You know? But I would like to think that they are. I mean, they've played a lot of basketball. I think there's some comfort in knowing that really it's our three upperclassmen that are playing right now. It really is on them, and the more they do, the better they play, the less I think our freshmen will feel the impact of being in a tournament. You know, but there's some things you can't protect them from. You know, we need you to make that. We need you to make that shot. We need you to make these free throws, and no one can shoot them for you. You know. So, we'll see tomorrow at noon. You know, but I like to think that they're ready, but you never know.
Speaking of Ashlynn, you know, she won Big East Freshman of the Year. When did you start to notice her confidence really shift this season, and to become, in the beginning of the year, she's kind of more nervous and perfectionist, to really relax when she's playing?
Well, you know, when you haven't played a lot of college basketball, what's there not to have confidence in? You know, all you know is that this is how I play. So, you know, when it came time to, you know, talk to Ash about this is what's going to happen. You're in the starting lineup, and here's how I want you to play. You know, just like you played in high school. You know, do the same things that you did for your team. Try to do those things for us. And hopefully, you know, she can stay on that path. But again, you know, she puts a lot of pressure on herself. So if if we can keep her away from beating herself up so much when she doesn't do well, I think she'll be fine.
Geno, there's a lot of teams in college basketball, whether it's yourself or Virginia Tech or UCLA, that have started relying more and more on the two-man game. Other than injuries, which obviously are a big factor, why do you think that has returned to college basketball in such a big way?
I don't know about all the other coaches, but I think you get to a point where maybe you don't trust everybody on your team to touch the ball that many times. Or you realize that, points are hard to come by as you get towards the postseason. And if you don't think that, you've got a lot of weapons, then you just go to the ones you do have and you keep going back to them over and over and over again. Maybe you don't do it overtly, where it's just blatant. But somewhere along the line, your offense is going to gravitate to those two people touching the ball more than anybody else. And defenses work really, really hard in the postseason to try to limit your best stuff. So hopefully you've got two players that can overcome that.
Geno, all the great players have played here for the Legends thing. Obviously, Laura Lishness is going to represent UConn.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that importance when you were building this? How kind of that first thing was to make sure you got the Connecticut?
It was funny because I remember I got asked to speak at a basketball camp, and I hadn't started here yet. So I drove up from Virginia, I remember. And I went to the camp and I spoke at the camp. And that's where I met Tony Floyd. And that's where I saw Laura play for the first time. And, obviously it all started from there, and then you're hoping that you can get involved with all the really good players in Connecticut, because a lot of them were not going here, they were going other places. So you're hoping that, like, hey, I hope that we could start a trend here, like, let's get these really good players to be interested in Connecticut. And then you follow her, and you realize, it was the last time you had a player that was first team All-State in 3 sports, And she's an incredible athlete. And obviously she was going to raise the level immediately. And there were just some games early on, middle, late, whenever, where you just, you knew, like, if we didn't have her out on the floor, there's no way that we were going to win. And that was rookie year when she made, Big East Rookie of the Year. And then in the Sweet 16 game against NC State, they may have been the #1 ranked team in the country that year. They were #1 seed. And we beat them, and she was just phenomenal. I mean, and they had like 5 pros on their team. She was just incredibly good. So, just, I would say, her, Carrie Bascom, those two, you talk about twos, I think that, they complemented each other so well. And then we got Megan's class to come in here, Laura and them, have better players surrounding them, and they just took off from there.
Paige said that she thinks that Aaliyah should have been the player of the year in the conference. Just talk about the season she had overall and how worthy that would have been as a choice.
Well, it's really hard for a Connecticut player to be player of the year. First, we have to go undefeated, okay, for us to get player of the year. We have to win the league. Second, you got to put up with the anti-Connecticut vote, because Aaliyah and Paige, I guarantee you, were not the only 2 players that got player of the year votes. And if in the real world they would have split the vote, and they would have each been player of the year, co-players of the year, correct? 100%. I think Paige is right. Aaliyah had the kind of year where, yeah, you could very easily make a case for her being Big East player of the year, and I think Paige realizes it. And, you know, I was hoping that the vote would be close. But, again, you can't always put stock in how people are not always going to do the right thing, you know? Bruno and I talk about this all the time. You know, player of the year vote is like the easiest vote that you can cast in your life. Easy. Who finished first? They did. Who's their best player? She is. All right, that's player of the year. And I think it's been very easy for the other coaches in the league to write Lee Edwards and not have been wrong, 100%. But in a perfect world, it would have been, you know, 5 for Laura. I mean, 5 for Paige and 5 for Lee. But obviously, it didn't come out that way, did it?
Well, Aaliyah can win it next year.
Huh?
Aaliyah can win it next year.
I mean, yeah, she can win Player of the Year. She could win Rookie of the Year in the WNBA. She could win a gold medal with the Canadian national team. There's a lot of awards she can win. Only her hairdresser knows for sure.
Providence just
Anybody under 50 won't remember that one.
Providence just beat Butler in the first round. Really early thoughts on playing them twice now within a week.
They're a really hard team to play against. They're physical. They're you know, defensively, I think they're one of the best teams in our league. You know, they've changed their philosophy, which is not easy to do in just 1 year, to go from, you know, how they used to play to, you know, how the coaching staff has them playing right now, which I think is really, really impressive for what, you know, what they've accomplished. And as long as you can do that, you're going to be in, you know, as you saw last Sunday or Saturday, whenever it was, you can be in every game. You can be competitive every single game. You know, so I'm not totally surprised that they won. The choice was we either play a team we just played Sunday or we play a team that we played 5 years ago. That's what December feels like, you know. You know, sometimes playing a game and getting it out of the way and getting your feet wet is pretty good against a team just coming in, playing their first game. So, yeah, I don't expect anything to be easy this weekend.
In terms of gauging whether the freshmen are ready for the postseason, I mean, what do you look for in this first game to just kind of get a sense of where things are headed?
Sometimes you get a glimpse. You know, you can tell a lot by if they start acting differently. You know, if the pregame is different, if they have a different look on their face before the game than they normally do, or, you know, today's practice and they're already thinking about it. So there's a lot of telltale signs, but you take each game and treat it individually, and let's just win one. You know, like Bruno says, you know, you got to go 1-0 3 times in a row. So if we can do that, we'll be good to go.
And you had the same problem last year with the 3 games in 3 days with the short roster. Like, you just manage it the best you can.
Yeah, that's what you do. You know, that's all you can do. You go out and you try to win that game. You don't have the opportunity to, you don't have the privilege, I think, the luxury of saying, we're going to save ourselves for Sunday. You got to win Saturday. And then if you're in Sunday's game, then you're worried about winning Sunday's game. You're not saying, well, we're going to need to make sure we're fresh for Monday night. last year, we had Lubes, a fifth-year senior, Dorco's in her fifth year. The guys that have played a lot of basketball, been around a lot, knew how to do all that stuff. So it's the same, but it's not the same this year. It's not the same. This is a little more tricky, this one.
Do you have
It's a
an
little
update?
tricky.
Sorry. Do
Yeah.
you have an update on Amari?
No, I think she's going to make the trip according to Janelle, but she's not cleared to play Saturday.